Hi, my name's David Holt from Metcash, and today what we're going to do is go through some of these e-log sheets, namely the thermometer calibration log sheet on the ref system. So if you've got one of these tablets, this is what you should be doing at least on a weekly basis to make sure that the temperature equipment that you are using to take temperatures in your store are accurate. No point these being inaccurate when you go and do your temperature checks of your fridges, your receiving temperatures or anything like that, because if you're not taking accurate temperatures of your product, then you're not making sure that your business is staying safe, or you're selling safe food to your customers. So really important. These are probably one of the most important pieces of equipment in your store. Every single store should have what we call a probe. It's part of the food standards code that you have a probe available in your store, because if you do have any issues with temperatures of product, then the only way that you can verify actual food temperature is by probing that product and making sure that you've got a core temperature of the product. Okay, so every store should have a probe. It might look like this one, or it might even look like a pencil probe. You might have heard that term before, or a pen probe. But so long as you have something that you can probe a food type with, that's something that's required in your store. There are 3 different types of checks that you can do depending on the equipment that you've got in your store. When you go through and you choose your thermometer calibration checklist, your e-log sheet, then the first thing it's going to ask is for your name. Type your name in. If it's not in there, choose other, and you'll be able to type your name in there. Once you've done that, you need to choose what test type it is that you're doing. I'm going to go with the first one, which has the minimum amount of equipment that you might have in the store, and that's temperature probe only. What that means when you do temperature probe only is that you can only test the accuracy of your equipment with what's called an ice point test with ice water. And if you're doing hot food in your store as well, then you're going to have to do a thermometer calibration with your probe at the hot food temperature. The problem with this is that if you can't use these test tags, then you're going to have to do that temperature check with boiling water. Boiling water obviously is 100 degrees, we know that. Unless you're at altitude, then the boiling temperature of water is less, which makes it more complicated. Just be aware of where you're located, but commonly in metro areas of cities, it's going to be 100 degrees. So the problem with it is that you have to actually do that temperature check while the water is on the boil, which causes all sorts of problems. Obviously safety issues, scalding, burning, those types of things. If you're doing it in a kettle, is the probe going to touch the element? What will that do? So consider all of those problems before you do the check with your probe and boiling water. Usually it's best to do it on a stove with a pan. But I wouldn't recommend it. I'd certainly recommend getting the test tags, because that is going to save you time and it's going to make sure your team members are safe. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to check the accuracy of this probe in the ice point, with the ice point check. So make sure that your probe's obviously turned on, and stick the probe into the ice water. Now the ice water is simply, it could be crushed ice, it could be blocks of ice, it could be ice from your local supplier. And all we've done is we've put some ice in a container and we've covered that slightly with water. That's what then we call an ice slurry. Stir it around a bit so that the water moves around. And what we want to see is that this probe is within plus or minus 1 degree of 0. So if we have a look at the temperature on the digital thermometer at the moment, it's saying 0.4 degrees. So we're happy that this thermometer is actually accurate within plus or minus 1 degree, which is the food standards code requirement. And we can move on. It's actually gone down to 0.3 degrees. Once you've done that, grab your tablet and under ice point test, put 0.3 degrees. If it was outside of plus or minus 1, it could be 1.1 degrees, it could be minus 1.1 degree. Then what's going to happen is the tablet's going to tell you you've got a problem. That means if it comes up with that, it means that your digital thermometer is likely not accurate. So the first thing to do is to change the battery, see whether that helps. The second thing to do, or the first thing, whichever order you want to put it in, is go through and create another ice slurry and retest the probe. So one of those two things should fix the issue. If it doesn't, it means you will need to go and get a new probe because these can't be they can't be adjusted. So once you've done the ice point test, as I said, if you do hot food, then you'll need to do the boiling water test. If you don't do hot food, you can sign this off, you can complete the log sheet, and you can and then it's done for the week. These thermometer calibrations should be done at least weekly. The reason we say that is because we know how some of these equipment get treated in store. We know that digital thermometers get used a lot in stores, especially where we're doing hot foods. The guns are used out in the storerooms for receiving. They could get dropped, those types of things. So what we want to make sure that these are accurate all the time. So we need to be doing them at least weekly. If you're not doing that, the guideline is try to do it at least monthly, but do not go anywhere past that. Okay? Our recommendation is to always do it weekly. So if you are only doing cold food, then your ice point check is enough. If you're doing boiling water test, then I don't have that equipment to show you here right now because I don't have the facilities to boil the water. What we do have is these test tags, which we'll go through in some of the next checks. So after that, you want to sign the log sheet off and you want to submit that log sheet.